Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar. So today I'm going to do a pretty much short presentation on how to produce rafters using MWF. I'll just give an overview of the tool, how to create rafters, how to make a modification to rafters once they've been created, and also how we can create openings and modify openings as well. All right. So as you can see on my screen, I've got a residential model containing a few roofs. So we've got 3 roofs in total, well, 4 if you count this part of a roof. So we have a few roofs anyway. And first of all, what I'm going to do is show you how we can activate the Rafter tool. So within MWF, you'll find the Rafter tool within the truss module. So if you go to the MWF menu, go to the truss module, you'll find that the majority of the truss module is red, but the purple section is specifically for rafters. So this is where you'll find your rafter tools, which you can use to then generate rafters. So I'm just going to focus specifically on this large roof here. And in order to create a rafter using MWF, we need to have a roof. And then what we need to do is go over to MWF and initiate the creation of the roof by hitting create. So once I hit create, it's going to ask me to choose a template based on some of the default settings available within the out-of-the-box templates, or maybe some templates that you've previously produced if you've used the Rafter tool previously. So I've got a couple of templates here, or a few templates, a couple which I've generated myself, and one which is already existing inside of the software. So I'm just going to use the Rafter System 24-inch. It is a duplicate of the 2-foot template. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a template based on that one. So once I hit create, choose a template, it's going to ask me to specify which layer within my Revit roof build-up that I want to associate with the rafter. So the rafter is going to be placed on my structural layer, and I'm going to associate that with the rafter. So when I place my rafters, it's going to be aligned to that structural layer. So I'll click OK, and now it's going to go through the process of generating a roof. It's also going to ask me about supports and a bird's mouth cut as well, if that's something that I'm interested in. So I can choose supports to reference when I'm creating my bird's mouth cut in my rafters. And if I want to add a support, I can simply click on the add button here. And you'll see it removes my roof. And now I can focus on the wall framing elements that I've previously created. So by selecting the top track in my walls, I can then specify these as the specific supports that I'm going to reference for my bird's mouth cut in my roof. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and click on those quickly. If this is not something that you use, don't worry, you can skip this step. It's not a deal breaker. Okay, so I've selected my supports, and you can see I've got 13 supports. If we wanted to expose some additional information regarding the type of supports I've selected, we can click on this arrow here, which will show us that these supports are structural framing elements. Okay. So once you've done that, you can also remove your supports if you don't need them, and you can also set a horizontal offset for your bird's mouth cut, and also a vertical offset. So you've got a horizontal option here and a vertical option there. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK at this point. And what you'll notice on the screen is that we have quite a few model lines that have been generated. So they'll be shown in green. And we've also got these boundary nodes, which have been placed at the extent of the roof. So when the roof's generated, it is going to be based on the Revit roof and the size of the Revit roof. So you'll notice those model lines align quite nicely to the that Revit geometry. You'll also notice it places a panel label. So each panel label is placed to represent a panel, and each face of the roof will generate a panel. Okay, so this is a rafter system. So the rafter system is built up of quite a few panels in this case. You also have some rafter direction elements which have been generated just to tell you that there is a slope going in a certain direction. Okay, so we could regenerate the roof upon creation. There is a checkbox to say frame it now, or we can regenerate the roof after it's been generated. So I can click on any part of the roof system here. So maybe a panel label, for example. Go to MWF, and I can simply hit regenerate. So by regenerating the roof, it's going to apply those settings that have been defined in the template, and it's going to recreate all those elements for me in a short space of time. Okay, so what it's doing at the moment is it's cutting those elements down to size, it's placing elements in the right location, it's making sure the spacing is exactly as I want it. Okay, so I've got a slight warning here, nothing to worry about, it's just referring to one of the elements, the settings that I've got in my template, which isn't consistent with what I've asked for. Okay, so as you can see, I've got panel 28, I've got panel 29, so on and so forth, based on the different faces in my roof. So out of the box, it's generated a ridge rafter, any rafters that we've asked for, and the only thing that it hasn't done for me is generated the fascias. So if I wanted to add fascia boards to my rafters, I can go into my panel properties. So I can click one of the members or any part of the panel, take me into the panel properties. So go to MWF, panel properties. And within the panel properties for my roof or my rafter, you'll notice it's referring to a rafter system. Okay, so the rafter system is the buildup of panels, each of those panels that make up the roof. Within the general tab here, you can see the position, which is referring to the layer of the roof that I want to align the rafters to. So when we first created the roof and the rafters, it did ask me to specify which layer I wanted to align to. I can override that at this point if I wanted to. I can change that for another option, but I'm happy with setting that to the structural layer. Secondly, we have the system properties where it can define an additional fascia board, the value plate, ridge rafters, and bird's mouth cut if I wanted to add that as well. For now, I'm just going to go into the fascia board settings, just double click on that. And you can see here, it's a simple checkbox to say enable the fascia board. So I'm going to click this option, and you'll notice I have the option of configuring my fascia board to be either a single board, double boards, or triple. I can also define the family type as well. So I'm just going to go for the BIMSF dimension number, and I'll go for a 2x8. You'll also notice at the bottom here in the configuration, I can choose the type of ridge board or how the ridge board is configured. And on the left, it shows a ridge board which has not been cut to match the shape or profile of the roof. And on the right, it's an adjusted beam which has cut that profile just to make sure that ridge at the top is aligning to the profile of the roof. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as ridge board, and I'll click OK. Okay, so simply selecting fit fascia board, making sure it's checked on, I can now add that to my roof. The last tab that we have here is the panel properties or the panels properties. And you'll notice based on the rafter system, we have a number of panels that we can modify based on what's built up for this rafter system. Okay. We also have the option to generate a ledger. So we can also generate ledgers if we want to. We can configure our rafters. So this is where we can set the spacing. We can set the minimum length of our rafters as well if we wanted to set a certain cutoff point to say we're not producing rafters any shorter than this. And we've also got the E configuration where we can set square cut or plumb cut if that's something that we needed to do. As well as setting your rafter spacing requirements, you can also change the family, and you can also associate a benchmark as well if you wanted to control that with an existing reference plane or benchmark. For now, I'm happy with these settings. These are consistent with the template name, so I'm going to make sure that they stay the same. So I'll click OK at this point, and I want to apply all these changes to the panel. So I want to apply a fascia board to all these panels. So now I'll click OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to go around my roof, placing those fascia boards. I may have had that set to triple. No problem. Okay, so it doesn't take too long to regenerate the roof, placing those members again, making sure it includes the fascia boards this time. All right, so if we have a look around the roof quickly, you'll see that we've got our fascia boards here. They've been added here as well, and also in other areas around the roof. Okay, So next, I'm going to show you how we can make a modification to a roof. So once the roof has been generated, our Rafter members have been placed, maybe we want to make a further modification by adding some additional members to the Rafter system. So I'm going to click on this small roof here, and I'm going to go to my MWF settings again, and I'm going to initiate the creation of another set of Rafters. This time around, I'm going to use the Rafter system 16-inch. And this is a good opportunity to explain that you can create different templates. The process is not very difficult. You can create different templates based on your own requirements. If you did want to frame it now, you have the Frame It Now button here, which will allow you to regenerate the roof system straight after clicking Create in this dialog box. I'm happy to just create and define my settings as usual. So I can go to Structure, my structural layer to define the alignment. It's going to ask me about the bird's mouth cut again. This time, I'm not going to add any supports, and I'm not going to define any values here. Okay, so we've just got a rafter direction that's been added here just to show that this is a sloping element. And all I need to do now is simply regenerate this rafter system just to see exactly what we're looking at. Okay, so it's just one warning relating to the ridge rafter, which is set here, but we don't necessarily have a ridge in this case, so it's just generating an error to say there's no object there meeting that requirement. Okay, so in this rafter system, you can see we have our members. So let me just click away here, and we have a ledger board at the back here. It hasn't generated a fascia, but maybe we want to add a fascia afterwards, and I want to place it in a specific location. So what I can do is I can select an existing element, I can copy it, and I can move it to the location of my choice, and then I can add it to the panel or to the system. Okay, so I'm going to take this ledger board, align it to the edge of my panel here. Just make sure the alignment's correct. So again, I'm going to move this element down. And now I'm happy with the placement of this particular element. I want to add this to, oh, tell you what I've done, guys. Silly me. I've actually moved the original. I was meant to copy it. Okay, let's go again. All right, so I'm going to copy that element. So this time, hit copy this time. CO. And I'm just going to go through the same steps again, guys. So I'm going to copy this to the location that I want to place it. I'm going to go to, the front elevation, and I'm just going to move this into the right location here. Okay. So what we can do is we can copy existing elements which exist within the rafter system, and we can make additional members from them. So in this case, I'm creating a fascia board from the ledger board that's been generated. So what I need to do now is go to MWF, and I need to go to my edits menu, because this is where I can carry out this edit to my rafter system, where I can add a new member. So I'm going to click on add new member, and it's going to ask me to select. So if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see on my status, I forgot what I called this now. You can see that it's asking me to select a member to add to the system. So I'm going to select this member that I've just copied. And after I've copied the member, clicked on it to say I want to select this member and add it to the system, it's going to ask me which tag do you want to use to associate this member to your rafter system. So I can choose ridge board, hip rafter, valley rafter, any one of these options available. The one that I want is fascia board, so I'm going to click on that option and say add. Once I click add, it's going to ask me to choose a line to associate this member with, and when the panel is regenerated, the line will regenerate the member alongside. The member will be regenerated alongside that line. Okay, that's all we need to do. And now I need to simply regenerate the panel in order for it to test it, to make sure that the member is regenerated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain that we have two options to regenerate. So we have an option to regenerate the whole roof system, and we have an option to regenerate a single panel. If you've only made a small modification, you may not want to regenerate the whole system. So in that case, this option would not be the one that you choose. Okay, so we have regenerate, and you can see in the description, regenerate the rafter system. In this case, I only want to regenerate this panel. So I'm going to go to my tools, and you'll see we have a second regenerate option, which allows us to regenerate the single panel. So this will save time, and it will also prevent you from making any unnecessary regenerations. So now I've clicked on that option, you can see this member's pinned, and if we look at the MWF data associated with this selected member, you'll see it is a fascia board, and it's got a fascia value assigned to it as well for the BIMSF label. Okay, so that leads me on to my last roof, or my last couple of roofs, one of which contains 2 openings. Okay, so I'm going to select both of these roofs, and I'm going to go ahead and frame them as I've been doing. So I'm going to go to MWF, I'm going to go to Create, and again, I'm going to choose my 16-inch ledger option. So again, once I hit Create, it's going to ask me to choose the layer I want to align my rafters to. I'll choose a structural layer. And again, it's going to ask me about the bird's mouth cut option, which I'm going to ignore again in this case. Okay. The reason this pops up for a second time is because we do have 2 separate roofs, and it's just asking me to clarify those second set of options that we have here. So again, I'm going to ignore the bird's mouth cut option, and you'll see now that it's generated a panel for roof panel, the roof panel here, and my roof panel on the opposite side as well. Okay, what you'll also notice is that it's generated some opening markers, which will be placed automatically once the Rafter system recognizes that there's an opening or perforation in your roof. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to regenerate the panel just to make sure that our roof is generated with all the members, so we can see exactly what we get when we're framing these openings. So I'm going to go to MWF, regenerate. And that's just going to work away in the background. Okay. So what you'll notice is we have the opening framing here, which has the header of the opening stretched to the joist members. So this is a joist supported opening, and there are two types of opening framing that you can set within the Rafter systems. I'll also regenerate this panel later on. I forgot to do that one. Okay, so this one is joist supported, and the second one on this side is also joist supported. What I can do is I can choose to change the opening marker for this particular opening. So I'm going to select the marker, and to modify the opening type, we can go to MWF, and we'll find the modification option for the opening type within the Edits menu. So go to Edits, change opening type, and from here, I can select an alternative option for my opening. Okay. So this is based on 2 existing templates for the opening markers. And if I wanted to make a modification at this point, make an instance change to one of these markers, what I can do is I can select one of the 2 options, click on the instance option here, and you'll notice that the word select changes to modify, which will allow me to make an instance change to this particular opening marker. So I'm going to go to modify, and you'll notice in the general tab, it's got some grayed out information because this is a RIM supported opening marker, and this is not something that we can change this location. In the header options, you can see we can configure the header to be a single member, double members, or triple. I'm going to leave that as single. Oh, actually no. For extra integrity, I'll make it a double. Okay. We also have the option to change the family type for this particular member as well. So again, I'm going to choose the BIMSF lumber, and I'm going to go for a 2x6. If you wanted to change the orientation of your header, you also have the option to align to host, which is currently what's on show in the preview here. And you have the option to also make the header vertical. If you needed to place an additional member, you can place an additional member using the repeat spacing option here. But just for today, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But there is an option there available if you need it. For any trim members that are generated, you can also choose the configuration for these members. So it can be a single, double, or a triple. I'll just make this a double in this case, just to make sure we add that bit more structural integrity there for these members. And again, for the member type for my BIMSF dimensional number, I'm going to choose the 2x6. Supporting joist is grayed out because we're looking at a rim supported option. So we're not looking at supporting joist in this case, and that's why it's grayed out. Okay, so now I'll click OK, and I can simply hit close and regenerate my panel. So whilst I'm at it, I will also regenerate the panel, which kind of got away from me. All right, so MWF, again, I can say regenerate. I'm happy to regenerate the system, that's fine. And again, it's going to work away in the background. So notice how it places voids to make sure that the members are cut accordingly and that things are sized appropriately. It also places the boundary nodes according to the Revit roof as well. So it's just making sure that everything is exactly where it should be. And this warning, which again, come to say hello. All right. So once it regenerates, you'll notice the members around this particular opening are slightly different to before. And you'll notice that now they're supported on an extended trimmer. So if we look at this member, you'll see it's a trimmer member and it's just a extended version. Okay. So now this is supported by these trimmers rather than extending out to the joist, the nearest joist member. Okay. We also have the option to modify the joist supported options as well. And it'll be the same kind of steps as what I've just shown for the rim supported option, just with select a different template, that's all. If you did want to create a new opening marker type rather than modify one, you can simply go to your MWF menu, opening manager, and this is where we can define any new templates for our opening markers. So these are available as a benchmark if you wanted to use these to start off from. So in this case, I can create a new one from the joist supported truss opening, and I can duplicate it. And if I wanted to, I could also give it a new name and rename it to something more appropriate. If I wanted to modify it, I can click on the modify option here, which will allow me to make some modifications to the generated members for this particular marker. So what I'll do is I'll just set these to 2x6 members. I'll double up the elements, and I'll just make sure these are all 2x6 elements as well. Okay. So you'll notice this time around we do have the supporting joist option for obvious reasons, and I'll click OK, close, and again I will regenerate. Oh, sorry, I need to apply it first of all. So I'm going to click on my marker first, MWF, edit, change opening type, and you'll notice the new template I've created is also available here now, where I can select it and regenerate as needed. Okay, so that shouldn't take too long, guys. For those with eagle eyes, you may notice there's a stray member here. We can deal with that in a moment. Okay, so I'll delete instances, that's absolutely fine. It's just a warning related to one of the members and how they're aligned. Okay, so I've got a member here which has been snuck in somehow, but you can see for our header, it's doubled up those members. For our supporting joist, I believe I forgot to set that to double, but our supporting joist can also be doubled up as well, where it forms a part of the structure for our opening. And the trimmer members is, again, I forgot to double those, but the option is there available if you need it. Okay, so if there are any stray members which have been generated, you can go to MWF. Within the edits menu, you have the delete member option, which you can utilize. Okay, well, that's how to work with MWF Rafters, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, that's all for today.
All right, thank you, Michael, for the presentation. Before we wrap this session up, as a reminder, we'll be answering your questions offline. You can send them to us via the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard, or you can also email us at info@struxsoftsolutions.com. And in either case, we will be addressing your questions or queries via email. The recording of this webinar will be emailed to you as well, or you can also view it on our YouTube channel or our social media accounts on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook by 5:30 p.m. EST tomorrow. And having said that, I'd like to thank you once again for attending today's webinar, and we hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you.